the Tiger King, his nemesis Carole Baskin, and all the players involved. What can we learn about them from their handwriting? I think you'll be shocked. Standing by, I've got Bart Baggett, one of the world's most respected handwriting experts. Bart's going to give us some never-before-seen insight into the minds, motives, and psyches of Tiger King Joe Exotic and his arch enemies. And we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. Joining me, I absolutely love this guy. He's become a rock star in the true crime genre, and I've got a great little intro here for him. Bart Baggett is his name. You guys know him. If you know true crime, you know Bart. He's an international best-selling author, entrepreneur. He's even appeared in 15 feature films, which I'm assuming was on the Vivid label. I don't know that for a fact. He works side by side with news producers, documentary filmmakers, lots of TV and celebrity legal cases. Bart Baggett is in the house, holed up in his studio in New Mexico. Bart, how are you, buddy?
Good to talk to you, Kent. Thank you for that rare, generous introduction. Oh, man, you're fun.
You know what? This whole true crime genre, everyone loves true crime. It's the hottest thing going, right? It really is the hottest thing going right now. And somehow you've infiltrated it at every single level, which I'm happy. I love seeing you on here. But you're tracking some weird shit.
Yeah, I think the first big note, I was on Larry King. You know, you're friends with Larry, and we had this big case with the JonBenet Ramsey almost 12 years ago.
Yes.
And, you know, being live in front of a million people, talking about whether or not this guy murdered this girl, they come back from Thailand, had a sex change. Like, that was such an interesting segment. And I'm right in the middle of it because one of my expertise is forensic handwriting analysis. So sometimes even the news stories that you see, I'm the guy behind talking to the police, talking to the attorneys about whether or not that ransom note was real. And so for that, it's just been so interesting because I feel like I speak attorney, I speak criminal lawyer, and I like death. I don't want to die personally, but I find it fascinating with all these crimes.
You know, you had some amazing cases. I recall back when JonBenet Ramsey case was going on and all the hustle around that and everything. What's been the most interesting case for you? And then I want to go into the Tiger King in a little while. But what's been the most interesting case for you so far?
Well, you know, a couple of years ago, there was this case in San Diego that made at least California news, probably national news. And this beautiful Asian girl was tied up, bound, naked.
This was just in your apartment.
Over her balcony. This was last night. This is just a normal Tuesday night for me. And she was thrown over the balcony in the richest neighborhood in San Diego. And that became a really big news story because not only did the local police call it a suicide. Now, I'm not a bondage expert, Kent. Maybe you should fill me in on how you tie yourself up and throw you over a balcony with silk stockings on. But they basically ruled it a suicide. There was a note scrawled in paint that said, "You killed him, I'll kill you," something like that. And it was such a fascinating case. And so the defense attorney, they didn't even press charges on this guy. And so it was a billionaire's brother likely did it. And then essentially they sued him in civil court, very much like O.J. Simpson. So it did finally go to trial in civil court, and he was found guilty, but not in criminal court. So the guy still walks free, and it just goes to show you, you're dating an Asian, and you're a billionaire, your brother can kill her, and you can get away with it.
All right, I'm a couple of million short of that threshold, so we're golden there. Hey, quick thing. You've been tracking this Tiger King case, and of course, the Tiger King, you know, the whole story, the whole dramatics of this thing, it's become a huge phenomenon. Of course, it's Netflix's biggest thing right now. What do you make of some of these characters? And you had sent me over earlier some of the documentation. You've been following these characters and tracking their handwriting, because again, that is your big thing, is you are the world's #1 handwriting expert. What do you make of this case overall? Then let's go into some of the handwriting analyzation on these individual characters of the show.
Well, you know, this case is such a cultural phenomenon because everybody's talking about it all over the world. And I don't know if it would have been that big of a hit without the fact that most of people are shut indoors for the last 3 weeks. What's fascinating is, you know, you start to make a TV show, even a scripted show, like remember Joe Dirt, you know, David Spade, like you love these characters that Will Ferrell creates. And you're like, man, I love watching these but they're never real. They're always scripted. And here we found these characters that are better than anything Hollywood could create. And mainly the Joe Exotic is the main character. And I remember and so we go with Joe Exotic. He's got this great accent. He's very authentic. He basically, there's even memes now. I saw a guitar meme where it says, "Who knew that meth would turn a straight guy gay?" Meth and tigers turn straight. I mean, like, it's bizarre what's happening on TikTok and Instagram, and it's become a cultural phenomenon. And what I make of it is the fact is, yeah, there's crazy people in the world. And if you can get them on film and let them be authentic, you could have some pretty interesting TV show. What's really bizarre, there's really crime going on. He's in jail. She might have killed her husband. Did she steal the estate? Those are the questions I kind of want to talk to you about today.
Absolutely. Do you want to go through them character by character, kind of lay out who the characters are for the folks who haven't seen the show, which I don't know of anybody who hasn't seen it. How do you want to break it down? Because you break these cases down so well.
Well, there's really two main characters that are relevant to me. It's Carole Baskin, which is, the arch enemy. She's this little bit overweight. She runs the good zoo, so she's the tiger queen in the white hat. And the other character is Joe Exotic, who basically is this, and I'll quote him, meth loving, gay loving, southern mullet wearing hick.
Love it.
That's his self-description. He is unapologetically gay, gun, southern, mullet, and he is outrageous. He's bigger than life. And so I was like, I wonder if these personalities are scripted. Are these really them? And so when we saw their handwriting, and we've got some samples of their handwriting, I was able to kind of put a face with that and say, wow, this guy's ego is the reason he does this. And as it plays out through the episodes, I think it's almost like Batman versus the villain. Who's going to win? Carole Baskin, she's obviously like the good, but is she good? Is she really good? Or did she kill her husband? These are great questions. It's anti-heroes throughout the whole program.
Nice. You know what? I'm going to let you drive it. Who do you want to go with first? You want to go with the Tiger King himself or Carole Baskins? And then also, we've got your handwriting samples too. Whenever you want to refer to those, let me know. We'll toss them up on screen.
Well, first of all, I just love that Tiger Joe is, we got all these letters from prison. We got letters from the show. We really got, who this guy is. And if you watch the show, you're thinking, this can't be real. How could someone be so bigger than life, so arrogant, so needy for attention? Is that even true? And Kent, everybody in Hollywood and politics, and ego is a driving force.
Absolutely.
Significance is a driving force. And even in his own handwriting, and we're seeing printing, we've got vanity. We've got domineering. And would you believe this, Kent? He actually has low self-esteem with a really large ego.
Shocking. That sounds like most of Congress.
Well, it goes to say that just because someone is brash and obnoxious and bully and domineering, it's not coming from a place of power. It's coming from a place of insecurity. It's coming from a need for status, a need for recognition. And what I saw in his handwriting, which they didn't really show in the TV show, was his domineering behavior, his vicious sarcasm, his anger, his sort of unrelinquishing sense for revenge. Now, obviously, you may have seen that in the show, but he wasn't acting. He really, really has these kind of emotions, which is what I think led him down the road to 2 marriages, meth addiction, run around shooting people. Total impulsiveness, no self-control. And Ken, you've known people in Hollywood with no self-control. Some of them end up dead, some of them end up famous, we don't know. But when you have no self-control, man, that road is a slippery slope.
Well, what drove a guy like that to go after Carole so hard? Because he focused so hard on her, and it became so bitter and so nasty. Is it that ego that makes him focus? Is he got to have a enemy the entire time? Because there is a real hatred and such an aggression there, to the point where, by the way, it's funny as hell when you're an observer. But what drives someone to be that nasty?
It's 2 things. It's desire for significance, and it's needing to be perceived as number one. And so in the world, so Hollywood, LA, sure, it's the biggest pond in the world. But put yourself in the world of tigers, of zoos. I personally know one zookeeper, right? He's got a little zoo in Austin. There's only like 6 or 7 privately held zoos. It's not a big community. And so when you have the pond really small, think about it like this, Kent. Your high school, you were a small town boy, middle of the flyover states, right? Everyone knew you in high school. So that seems to be your world. And so you want to be the top dog of your little pond. Well, his pond was zookeepers and tigers. And so what happened was, as they began to criticize each other publicly, it became your enemy. And it just went out of control. Unlike Carole, which we'll get to her in a second, she doesn't have impulse. She does have impulse control. She is logical. She's basically a little nurturing. He's the dead opposite. As far as writing characters go, he is literally the evil Joker, and she is like this normal white hat. But is she? That's the question.
Well, you've got these interesting dynamics. You've got Joe and then Doc. Doc, I happen to know, over in Myrtle Beach. So you've got Doc with his 5 or 6 wives or whatever and all that kind of stuff. So there's not a real hatred there. I mean, you see kind of a bit of a kinship between he and Joe. And but then with he and Carole, Joe and Carole, you see this absolute bitter hatred. Why did he pick her?
Well, first of all, Doc and him have a lot in common. They both have 3 or 4 multiple girlfriends and boyfriends. Everybody there is running their own cult. And think about it. It wasn't just a zoo, and it wasn't a business. Everybody there had free labor. In the case of Doc, unlimited sex with young women. They were the status. They were the king of their castle, as Borat used to say, the king of my castle, right? And so you have a mutual respect for the other guy. And I think as 2 men, they kind of you're a warrior, I'm a warrior. But Carole was relentless in her ability. She actually, not only as the show moved on, bankrupted him, but all the things that made him money, she literally went after. I mean, think about it. You're let's say, touring magician, and you finally made a living going to malls and doing magic, which is essentially the storyline with the Tigers, right? She basically sent out a troop of people to stop his ability to make money. I mean, that's literally economic persecution. They're trying to make him stop money under the guise of save the animals. But the truth is, he knew, she knew, the audience knew, she's doing the same thing he is. It literally is a territory battle, just like a reality show, but in real life with tigers and meth and polygamy. Which who can't watch that? I mean, Kent, I think you could start a cult. I'm going to get you a couple of lion cubs. I'm going to get you 4 girlfriends, because I only have 3 now, and then we're going to get you a cult and a traveling zoo. And you're going to be the next Lion King. I can feel it if you don't run for president. That's your next life.
You know what, Lion King or Big Love, I don't know, but not Lion King, Tiger King, whatever. So let's go back to Joe just for a second. So there's a lot of crimes being committed. Where did his crime streak start, and what crimes are you analyzing throughout his career? And then let's go to Carole, who allegedly killed her husband and maybe fed her to the tigers. But let's start with Joe. Where did his crime start?
It's really as simple as opportunity. He's a young guy. He's got an ego. He discovered his love for tigers. And because he's not educated, he has no idea of the law. Like the idea that you're running around with a gun strapped to it and you're shooting in the air, you're killing tigers because they age out. I don't even know if he was aware that that's wrong, or that you shouldn't just shoot your friends over the shoulder. Like this is sort of like, and excuse the terminology, but just white trash criminal behavior. Like his whole life, he kind of got away with it. Small town. The cops knew he was a little bit crazy, probably has a little record. So I don't think he really has this clear perception of right and wrong. And then when he gets famous, you get power hungry. And if somebody has a lot of insecurities with massive impulsiveness, with sarcasm, with revenge, it's not like you have, a $800 an hour attorney whispering in your ear saying, you realize that this is conspiracy. I don't think he knows those kind of legal terms. Carole Baskin, on the other hand, had $3 million from her dead husband. She could hire the best attorney. She could investigate things like copyright law. Do you think Joe knew what copyright infringement was when he started making silly videos about her? No. He was just trying to be funny, be entertaining, and get attention, which is what he probably did when he was 14 years old.
Got it. So where did, in this whole mess, I know that you look back into these crimes. I know you dig deep, and you've got, every attorney, big famous attorney at your fingertips. In your circle, what are you finding to be where Carole kind of went wrong? I mean, was it back when she got married? Was it like 13 or 14 when she got married or some kind of thing like that? And then kind of an abusive relationship. And where did it start going bad for her? And how did she take it to where she possibly took it?
I don't think Carole started out as a bad human being. Like if you look at her handwriting and Hillary Clinton and other people, they're nurturing, kind women. Like there's a lot of things about them that would be okay. Like a lot of people have girlfriends and wives with similar bubbly round handwriting when she was younger. What she did was she married a guy 20 years older, and she fell in love with this world. But what's interesting about her, and as we look at her handwriting, she's cold. She's straight up and down. She's logical. She's precise. She's not warm and fuzzy. Now, if you look at the interviews, you can see her trying to be warm and fuzzy. And it's almost awkward, like a high school dance when you're trying to find out when to make that first kiss. Like her interviews are awkward because she doesn't have personality, doesn't have flash. But where she went wrong, or if you are honest, where she went right, is when she got tired of her older husband, millionaire husband, who took her from walking the streets to living a millionaire lifestyle. She said, how can I get out of this marriage and keep all my tigers? How can I get out of this marriage and keep this status that I've attained? And by the way, this is the kind of crap I deal with every day in real life, Kent. You wouldn't imagine the murders, the conspiracy, unplugging the grandmother, changing wills, changing power of attorneys. Literally, this happens every day in America, but it doesn't happen with tigers, and it normally doesn't happen with $10 million. And what she did, and this is what my personal opinion is, when he disappeared the next day, again, he just disappeared, right? Within 24 hours, went to his office, took all his documents, all the wills, all the power of attorneys, which his executive assistant says was sitting under the desk, and they disappeared forever. Now you have a missing persons or a dead guy with no paperwork. What do? Well, the state would take over, right? Miraculously, they found a power of attorney that had the words, if he dies or disappears.
What are the odds of that?
Really? I mean, just that alone, but that's not something you could probably testify in court and get away with. But here's the thing. This was in 1997, 98, right? This show aired 20 years later. Statute of limitations. The family didn't come forward. If the family would have called me 20 years ago, we'd have been in that courtroom saying, look, this is forged. There's no way this guy wrote that. This is all bull crap. And then they have to go back. But even still, she's married. So she would probably still get the estate unless there's something else. It's really a travesty for the sister, the brother, the ex-wife, the executive assistant, all the people that were friends with Don. He's dead now, or he sure is missing a long time, and she got everything. Does that make her a cold bitch? I think so. Yeah, probably one of my clients too in the future.
Bart, you're a handwriting expert, actually the biggest in the world. Let's talk about handwriting. Let's go back to Joe for a second. Show me some of the handwriting samples. You've sent some over. We'll put some up on screen. What are some of the characteristics in his handwriting? What are some of the things that in his handwriting that tells you about him and his personality?
Well, first of all, there's a general manicness to his handwriting. He writes fast. He thinks fast. He slants to the right. He has got a huge signature. I think there's a couple of there's a document here where he's filing documents pro se, and what that means is he can't afford an attorney. He's doing it himself. And this court document, which is dated March 5th, 2020. Wow, that's just really recently. He's basically one big egomaniacal signature. It's illegible, it's unreadable, and it's half the page. The only person I can think of with a signature that big was Michael Jackson,
really,
who had a huge ego, and whether you love him or hated him, the ego and the vanity was what part of what drove him. I mean, really was. So when someone's ego's that big, their signature's that big, it makes people make really poor decisions based on me first and not other people first.
Got it. Let's go to Carole now. You've got some of her handwriting samples. What does her handwriting tell you about her?
Oh my God. So the picture really speaks 1,000 words, Kent. The photograph of her and her wedding with her new husband around a leash makes me want to just cry. Oh, I mean, talk about alpha, beta. Like, who's the man in this relationship? Clearly, it's Carole Baskin, right? I just love that picture, and I know he's probably still very embarrassed that they used that on the show. If you look at her handwriting, she writes straight up and down. And by the way, about half my clients are in India, and a lot of Indians straight up and down. There's no crime in writing left, right, etc. But if you write straight up and down, it means you don't have access to your feelings. You have them, but you're not expressing them. And so if you're single out there and you write a little more like Joe, you're never going to be emotionally happy with someone that writes straight up and down. So Carole really is logical, cool, procedural. Wouldn't call her the sharpest tack in the tack drawer, but she is methodical. And a lot of people that make good grades have this kind of thinking processes. So, she's not inherently an evil person when you look at her writing. What could be evil about her is she outsmarts people with her patience, with her determination, and her lack of emotional recourse, without emotional outbursts, which is exactly what Joe did, which is why he's in prison. If he'd have been more logical, a little bit more strategic about his fighting his enemies, maybe he wouldn't be in jail. Carole would never have made that mistake.
Got it. That makes sense. Overall, is Joe going to wind up getting out of jail? What do you think?
With this president, it's possible. Because it's a great PR move because everybody loves this story. You know what? He did commit a crime. And what they did in the legal procedures is in fact, I was just binge watching Law and Order, which I won't admit that I'll do that. And it was so interesting because the DAs in that show basically mess up the first charge. And the DA is so mad, he goes finds other reasons to put that SOB in jail, which I find kind of offensive but guess what? DAs are like that. So once they got him on some sort of charge, they got records that weren't burned. And he's guilty of killing animals. He's guilty of abusing things. He's guilty of doing meth and distributing meth. I mean, he got married twice. I don't know what it's like in Oklahoma, Kent, but you can't get married twice in the same state to two different men or women. Is that still true in Oklahoma? You would know.
I have no idea. I'm guessing maybe Utah and Nevada, that's okay? I have no clue.
So what they did is they stacked so many charges that it's difficult to plead out. And when the district attorney wants your ass, they will find something to stick. And of course, Carole's attorneys remember the civil case and then there's a criminal case. And those are very different things. He's already broke before he went to jail. She got everything he owned, including his tour bus. And he basically kept flipping over the properties to other people to keep him out of his name. Kind of like if someone runs for bankruptcy, you put your house in your kid's name and the government can't get it. But, how do you hide a zoo? It's kind of hard to hide a zoo. And he did. He hid it in somebody else's name, or he hid it in someone else's name. So she bankrupted him, so he lost that. Then the government decided he was a bad guy. When the government decides you're a bad guy, you're probably going to go to jail. To answer your question, Kent, he'll get out of jail at one point, but unless he gets a pardon, I got to tell you, it's going to be tricky because he actually was convicted. Once you're convicted, you have to go through the appeal process.
Got it. Now you've got pre-jail and post-jail handwriting samples from Joe. Is there a difference? Is there a difference in attitude, a difference in his character, do you think, or is it still all kind of the same?
No, I think he's on less meth when he's in jail. I mean, I don't know how accessible drugs are in jail. So it's a good point. So no, he's a little more sober now, but I bet he's just as crazy as a batshit crazy. Totally.
I love it. I love it. And I can't wait. I'm hoping that Netflix continues this in some way, shape, or form, just because it is so interesting. Bart, it has been great having you on here. Bart Baggett, one of the world's leading handwriting experts. Bart, you're doing forensic expert schools worldwide right now. I mean, I know you've been doing this for a long time. Where can people find you?
Well, there's two things. If you're interested in the personality, go to handwritinguniversity.com. We have courses for free, up to $3,000. You can really learn how to be great at this, make a little extra money. And if you want to do what I do in the courts, it's called International School. So internationalschool.us, it's an entire 3-year program where we actually train you to be an expert witness. And trust me, it's not cheap, Kent, but it's really hard to find a career. You can make a difference, be involved, and make 6 figures. So that's what we're doing with people, not only in America, but around the world.
Bart, it's great, when I tune into these true crime shows and big news networks and things like that, to see you and your students there leading this thing. So it's really great. Proud to be your friend, buddy, and thank you so much for being here.
All right, buddy, stay away from the tigers and the meth. That's
it's
all
a deal.
I'm saying.
Bart Baggett, check him out. Bart, thank you.